My husband and I had been saving every little bit for months, dreaming of a vacation that would help us reconnect. Things had been a little off between us lately. Nothing dramatic, just distant. We thought this trip would bring us closer again, somewhere warm, relaxing, with no stress, just the two of us. But then out of nowhere, his mother invited herself, or more accurately, he invited her and told me she was just coming along for company, as if that was completely normal. I was stunned. I didn't say anything at first. I didn't want to start a fight. I kept thinking maybe it wouldn't be so bad. Maybe she'd give us space. Maybe this trip could still work. But deep down, I already knew. She never gave us space. She never saw me as his wife. To her, I was just the woman who took her son away. From the moment we got on the plane, she clung to him like glue. On the shuttle to the resort, she sat between us. At check-in, she asked to be placed in the room right next to ours, in case she needed something. Even though I tried to plan a romantic dinner for just us two, she guilt-tripped him into letting her tag along. "I came all this way," she said. "I want to spend time with my baby." He looked torn but caved, as always. Every single thing we tried to do together, she inserted herself. Beach walks, sightseeing, even couple spa appointments. I was starting to feel invisible. By day 3, I had barely spoken to my husband alone. Every time I tried, she popped up. One night, I suggested we have a quiet drink by the ocean after dinner. He agreed, but as we got ready to go, she suddenly didn't feel well and asked him to stay back with her. He didn't even hesitate. He looked at me and said, "She's not feeling great. Rain check?" That's when I realized this trip wasn't about us anymore. It was her show, and he was letting her run it. But the final straw came on the 5th day. We were supposed to go on a boat tour, just the two of us. I'd booked it secretly, hoping to surprise him and finally have time alone. When I told him about it that morning, he looked nervous. "Can my mom come too?" he asked, scratching his head. "She'll feel left out." My heart sank. I said no, firmly, for the first time. That's when she stormed into the room, furious. "Stop ruining this trip with my son," she yelled. "Just leave if you're so miserable." So I did. I packed my things, walked out, and left them behind. The look on my husband's face? Shocked. He didn't expect me to go through with it. But I was done playing second to his mother. I needed space. Not from the trip, but from the two of them. And what happened after I left? That's when things really started to change. From the very first morning of the trip, my mother-in-law started picking at me. It was subtle at first. Just little comments slipped in with a smile, like when she looked at my outfit and said, "Oh, that's bold," as if I'd shown up in a Halloween costume. I brushed it off, trying to stay calm and polite. But it didn't stop there. At breakfast, she stared at my plate and raised an eyebrow. "That's a lot of carbs for someone trying to stay in shape," she said, loud enough for the nearby table to hear. "My husband," he chuckled nervously and changed the subject, acting like it was no big deal. But to me, it felt like a jab wrapped in sugar. Later, when I put on sunscreen before heading to the beach, she actually scoffed. "You're using that kind? No wonder your skin looks the way it does." I stood there in shock, holding the bottle, not sure how to even respond. I wasn't being dramatic. This wasn't friendly teasing. It was quiet contempt, disguised as concern, and it was nonstop. She had something to say about everything I did, how I sat, how I spoke, even how I laughed. "You really find that funny?" she'd ask, like my joy annoyed her. One afternoon, we all went swimming. I wore a simple one-piece swimsuit I'd bought just for the trip. She took one look at me and said, "Oh, honey, you're brave wearing that." I could never be that confident. And the way she said it, it wasn't admiration. It was mockery. I felt my cheeks burn, not from the sun, but from the shame she tried to plant in me. And my husband? He was already halfway in the water, pretending not to hear. That was his thing. Pretend it's not happening, and maybe it'll go away. But it didn't. Every meal, every walk, every activity came with a side of criticism. When I ordered a cocktail, she muttered, "Well, some people need alcohol to enjoy themselves, I guess." When I tried to talk about work, she rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, right, you work in marketing," like it was some kind of joke. And when I asked for a bit of quiet time one morning to read by the pool, she told my husband I was being distant and cold. It was like she was on a mission to paint me as the villain. And slowly I realized something worse than her comments. My husband never defended me, not once. He never stood up and said, "Mom, stop." He just smiled, shrugged, or walked away. That hurt more than her words, because deep down, I knew she was only getting bolder because he let her. This trip that was supposed to heal our marriage, It was starting to show me exactly how broken it really was. It didn't take long before my mother-in-law's little jabs turned into open criticism. She stopped pretending to be subtle. Now she'd pull my husband aside almost every day, whispering behind my back, throwing quick glances my way as if I wouldn't notice. Sometimes I'd catch fragments of her words. She's not trying. She's ruining the mood. You deserve better company. She made sure I heard just enough to sting, but not enough to fully call her out. The worst part? My husband never pushed back. He'd just nod, say nothing, and come back acting strange and distant. One afternoon, we were all supposed to go for a sunset cruise. It was something I had been looking forward to, a rare romantic escape. But just an hour before, she pulled him aside again. They stood by the resort lobby, and I watched from our balcony. Her arms were waving. She looked upset, and he looked confused. When he came back up, he quietly told me, "Mom's not feeling the vibe tonight. She thinks maybe we should just do dinner instead, together, to keep things chill." It didn't even make sense. But I knew exactly what she had said. I could feel her words pushing me out of every moment we were supposed to enjoy. That night at dinner, she didn't hold back. While picking at her food, she sighed and said, "You know, I tried to make this a nice trip for us all, but some people just don't understand what family means." She looked straight at me. I didn't even get a chance to respond. My husband quickly jumped in, saying, "Let's not start this now," like we were both to blame, like I hadn't been trying, like I hadn't swallowed my pride over and over again just to keep the peace. The next morning, it got even worse. I was walking out of the room when I heard her clearly say to him, "I raised you better than this. She doesn't fit our family. Look at her. She doesn't even care about our traditions. You're just letting her disrespect everything." I stopped in my tracks. She wasn't even whispering anymore. I waited, hoping he'd stand up for me, say something, anything. But all I heard was silence. Then footsteps as he came around the corner like nothing had happened. I couldn't hide the hurt in my eyes, but he didn't seem to notice. She wasn't just trying to make me uncomfortable anymore. She was trying to turn him against me, and slowly it was working. I could see the change in him, the way he talked to me, the way he looked at me, how he seemed more and more unsure of everything I said or did. This vacation was meant to bring us closer, but all it did was give her the stage to tear us apart. And with every quiet nod he gave her, every word he didn't say, I started to realize I might be the only one fighting for us. Dinner that night started off quiet, but I could feel the tension building like a storm about to break. We were seated at a beautiful seaside restaurant, the kind you see in travel magazines, twinkling lights, soft music, waves crashing nearby. But none of that could mask what was coming. I could see it in her eyes. My mother-in-law had been on edge all day, snapping over little things, giving me cold stares when my husband wasn't looking. She had barely spoken to me the whole evening, and when she did, it was with a tight, fake smile that didn't reach her eyes. I tried to stay calm. I smiled, made small talk, even complimented the food just to keep things from boiling over. But it didn't matter. Somewhere between the appetizers and the main course, she finally snapped. Slamming her fork down, she looked straight at me, and with a voice loud enough for everyone in the restaurant to hear, screamed, "Stop ruining this trip with my son. Just leave." The table fell silent. Conversations around us stopped. All eyes were suddenly on us. I froze. My heart pounded in my chest. I couldn't believe she had actually said it, out loud in public, with so much anger. And worse, I turned to look at my husband, praying he would say something, anything to stop this madness. But he didn't. He just sat there, eyes on his plate, silent. He didn't defend me. He didn't ask her to stop. He didn't even look surprised. He just shut down. I felt the heat rise to my face, not just from embarrassment, but from betrayal. How could he let her humiliate me like that? After everything I'd endured, her endless jabs, her attempts to wedge herself between us, this was the moment to take a stand. And he didn't. He just let it happen. I tried to speak, to find words, but nothing came out. It felt like I had been slapped in front of strangers, and the person who was supposed to protect me was pretending not to see. The waiter awkwardly approached the table, asking if everything was okay. My mother-in-law smiled sweetly at him, acting like she hadn't just exploded seconds ago. "Just a family disagreement," she said, waving it off like it was nothing. I couldn't sit there a second longer. I got up quietly, trying to hold back tears, and walked out. No one followed me, not even him. I sat on a bench outside, staring at the ocean, wondering how it had come to this. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was angry, not just at her, but at him, because silence in that moment was louder than her yelling. It told me exactly where I stood. And for the first time, I started to wonder if maybe she was right. Maybe I did need to leave, but not the trip. Maybe I needed to walk away from both of them. After that awful dinner, I didn't say a word. I didn't scream back or argue. I just sat there feeling completely numb. Her words kept ringing in my ears. Just leave. And my husband's silence felt even louder. I kept hoping maybe he'd run after me. Maybe he'd say he was sorry, that he'd fix this. But no, nothing. I sat alone by the beach for almost an hour. No one came looking, so I went back to the room, calm on the outside, but broken inside. I didn't cry. I didn't slam doors. I simply opened my suitcase and started packing. Every fold, every zipper felt like closure. I was done begging for respect, done being the outsider in my own relationship. If they wanted a vacation without me, they could have it. I wasn't going to give them the drama they expected. I wasn't going to yell. I was going to leave quietly, but on my own terms. I picked up my phone and searched for nearby hotels. Found a small boutique place just 20 minutes away. Perfect little hideaway, ocean view and all. I booked a room for 2 nights, no hesitation. I left a short note on the nightstand that simply said, "No problem. Enjoy the rest of your trip." That was it. No accusations, no emotional paragraphs, just peace. I didn't slam the door when I left. I didn't even wake him. I walked out around midnight, pulled my suitcase behind me down the quiet hotel hallway, my footsteps the only sound. The moment I stepped into my cab, I felt something shift in me, like I had finally taken my power back. It wasn't about making a scene, it was about choosing myself. When I got to the new hotel, the morning after I left, I woke up in my new hotel room feeling a mix of freedom and sadness. I hadn't planned on telling anyone what happened, but as I sat on the balcony with my coffee, watching the waves roll in, something inside me stirred. I opened my phone, flipped to selfie mode, and started recording. No filters, no script, just raw honesty. I talked about everything, how the trip was supposed to bring us closer, how I was treated like an outsider, how my own husband sat there in silence while his mother humiliated me in public. I didn't cry or scream in the video. I just told the truth. When I posted it, I figured maybe a few close friends would see it. Maybe someone would understand what I was feeling. But within hours, it started spreading. People were sharing it, commenting, tagging others. By the next day, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. It had gone viral, really viral. Thousands of strangers were watching, and the comments were flooding in. People saying, "You did the right thing. I've been there. Proud of you for walking away." Even some of my husband's friends messaged me privately, saying they were shocked by his behavior. What hit me the most was the support from other women, wives, girlfriends, even mothers-in-law, saying they'd seen this pattern before. The controlling in-law, the spineless partner, the woman left alone to deal with it. I wasn't alone, and suddenly I didn't feel invisible anymore. My voice, which had been ignored at that dinner table, was now being heard by thousands. Friends and family started reaching out too. My cousin texted, "I'm so glad you said something." An old college friend messaged, "Your courage gave me chills." Even my own parents, who usually stayed out of my relationship, called to say they were proud of me for standing up for myself without turning it into a fight. I had no idea so many people were quietly rooting for me. Meanwhile, I could tell my husband and his mother didn't expect any of this. They weren't on social media much, but word got around. People started asking them questions. A mutual friend told me my husband was embarrassed by how public everything got, but I didn't care. I didn't name names or spread hate. I simply told the truth, and people saw it for what it was. That video wasn't revenge. It was release. It was finally being seen, finally being heard. For so long, I had been quiet, letting things slide to keep the peace. But the moment I chose to walk away, everything changed. I didn't need to scream or fight. All I had to do was tell my story, and the world listened. After I left, I thought they'd enjoy their perfect vacation without me, but life had other plans. Just a day after I checked into my new hotel, I got a text from one of my husband's friends who had seen my viral video. He told me karma seemed to be working overtime. My husband had gotten violently sick. Turns out he ate undercooked seafood at dinner the night after I left. He was throwing up all night, stuck in bed with no one but his mom to take care of him. She blamed the restaurant, but people said she was the one who insisted they go there because it was authentic and not tourist trash. Her words exactly. Then 2 days later, their rental car broke down in the middle of nowhere. No signal, no shade, just the two of them stuck on a dusty roadside arguing over who should have checked the engine light. I couldn't help but picture it, her yelling, him sweating, both of them miserable. They had to wait almost 3 hours for a tow truck in the heat, and their replacement car wasn't available until the next morning. So they took a taxi back to the hotel, which was the final blow. Apparently, while they were gone, the hotel gave their room away by accident, overbooked. The front desk offered a downgraded room, smaller, no ocean view, and barely enough space for two people to walk without bumping into each other. She threw a fit in the lobby, of course. Witnesses told me she screamed at the staff, demanding a manager, but nothing worked. That was all they had left. By then, my husband was still weak from the food poisoning, exhausted from the car mess, and now sleeping in a downgraded room next to his angry, loud mother. They had planned spa days, boat rides, and fancy dinners. None of that happened. He couldn't even keep food down, and she kept nagging him to man up and enjoy the vacation. Friends who were still on the trip told me it was painful to watch. Meanwhile, I was relaxing at my new hotel, sipping drinks by the pool, taking walks on the beach, even making new friends. The contrast was surreal. I didn't plan for things to fall apart for them. I just needed peace. But seeing how everything went downhill the moment I left, it felt like a silent confirmation that I had made the right choice. They wanted me gone. And once I was, everything they thought would be perfect turned out to be a disaster. People online even started joking in the comments of my video, saying things like, "That's not a vacation, that's karma with a suitcase," and "she took the good energy with her." I didn't reply. I just smiled, closed my phone, and continued enjoying the rest of my solo escape, while their dream trip crumbled without me. The moment the court orders came through, everything changed. Her bank accounts? Frozen. Every penny she thought she had access to was locked. She couldn't touch a dime. The judge saw through her lies and ruled in my favor. All the money she took while I was deployed was declared misappropriated. She was ordered to pay it all back, down to the last cent, thousands in restitution. And because she didn't have the money anymore, the court approved wage garnishment. Every paycheck she earned now had a chunk going straight to me. She thought she was starting a new life. Instead, she was now working to repay the man she betrayed. But it didn't stop there. Her boyfriend, the one I used to call a brother, also took a hit. Turns out using stolen money to fund your lifestyle comes with consequences. He lost his job after the investigation exposed how deep he was involved. His company didn't want anything to do with someone connected to financial fraud. His reputation shattered. Their little dream life collapsed overnight. They went from luxury vacations to court dates, from secret getaways to frozen credit cards. I didn't even have to raise my voice. Just handed the truth to the right people and let justice do the rest. Watching them scramble while I stood tall in court was the start of my peace. They thought I'd never fight back, but they forgot. I was trained to survive battles, and this was one I was always going to win. After walking away from all the drama, I finally had the space to breathe. For the first time on that trip, I could actually enjoy the place we came to see. I started my solo adventure with zero expectations, just a map, my phone, and a quiet determination to reclaim my happiness. I wandered through colorful markets, tasted street food that made me smile without needing anyone's approval, and visited museums I had wanted to see since we arrived, but was always told were boring. I did everything on my own schedule, no one rushing me, no one judging my choices. The freedom hit me harder than I expected. I didn't realize how heavy my MIL's constant criticism had been until it disappeared. There were no snide remarks about how I looked, no eye rolls if I laughed too loud, no cold stares when I chose something from the menu she disapproved of. It was just me, and I liked it. I felt light. I felt calm. I felt like I had control over my own time again. One afternoon, I joined a small local tour on a whim. That's where I met two women from Canada and a couple from Spain. We clicked instantly. We shared travel stories, laughed over coffee, and even ended up going out for dinner together. They didn't know anything about my situation, but they made me feel seen and appreciated. It reminded me that kindness still exists and that not every relationship has to be difficult or draining. I also took long walks by the beach during sunset. It became a little ritual, just me and the waves. I'd sit on a bench with a book, or sometimes with nothing but my thoughts. I didn't cry. I didn't spiral. I just processed. I looked at the past few days and realized how much of myself I had given up to please people who never saw me as enough. That quiet space by the ocean helped me see things clearly. I wasn't the problem. I was just caught between a weak partner and a toxic mother-in-law. And once I removed myself from that triangle, Life became peaceful. By the end of the trip, I felt stronger than I had in years. It wasn't just about being alone. It was about being whole. I didn't need to be part of someone else's story if I wasn't being treated with love or respect. I booked myself a spa day as a final gift before heading home. As I lay there with my eyes closed, soft music playing, I smiled to myself. Not because someone apologized or because things went back. It didn't take long before my mother-in-law's little jabs turned into open criticism. She stopped pretending to be subtle. Now she'd pull my husband aside almost every day, whispering behind my back, throwing quick glances my way as if I wouldn't notice. Sometimes I'd catch fragments of her words. She's not trying. She's ruining the mood. You deserve better company. She made sure I heard just enough to sting, but not enough to fully call her out. The worst part? My husband never pushed back. He'd just nod, say nothing, and come back acting strange and distant. One afternoon, we were all supposed to go for a sunset cruise. It was something I had been looking forward to, a rare romantic escape. But just an hour before, she pulled him aside again. They stood by the resort lobby, and I watched from our balcony. Her arms were waving. She looked upset, and he looked confused. When he came back up, he quietly told me, "Mom's not feeling the vibe tonight. She thinks maybe we should just do dinner instead, together, to keep things chill." It didn't even make sense. But I knew exactly what she had said. I could feel her words pushing me out of every moment we were supposed to enjoy. That night at dinner, she didn't hold back. While picking at her food, she sighed and said, "You know, I tried to make this a nice trip for us all, but some people just don't understand what family means." She looked straight at me. I didn't even get a chance to respond. My husband quickly jumped in, saying, "Let's not start this now," like we were both to blame, like I hadn't been trying, like I hadn't swallowed my pride over and over again just to keep the peace. The next morning, it got even worse. I was walking out of the room when I heard her clearly say to him, "I raised you better than this. She doesn't fit our family. Look at her. She doesn't even care about our traditions. You're just letting her disrespect everything." I stopped in my tracks. She wasn't even whispering anymore. I waited, hoping he'd stand up for me, say something, anything. But all I heard was silence. Then footsteps as he came around the corner like nothing had happened. I couldn't hide the hurt in my eyes, but he didn't seem to notice. She wasn't just trying to make me uncomfortable anymore. She was trying to turn him against me, and slowly it was working. I could see the change in him, the way he talked to me, the way he looked at me, how he seemed more and more unsure of everything I said or did. This vacation was meant to bring us closer, but all it did was give her the stage to tear us apart. And with every quiet nod he gave her, every word he didn't say, I started to realize I might be the only one fighting for us. If you enjoyed the revenge story, like, share, comment, and subscribe to World Revenge Stories, where every tale is a new saga of revenge.